Welcome back to the Dreamspace Dispatch. I'm Nikki and it's already April. How did that happen? March is just up and left. Honestly, rude. Didn't I say this about January, February, and March? Apparently I did. Still. How? Though, to be honest, good riddance because spring, it is here and I am not the same person I was even 90 days ago. And I think that's worth talking about. But first, the usual. How are you doing? What's going on in your corner of the world? Is the sun out where you are? Has it been warm and cozy? Are you still in a coat? Or have you made the leap to warmer temperatures? Here, it's been warm and then it's gotten cold. And it gets warm and then it gets cold. It's just a hot mess. It doesn't know whether it's coming or going. So, those of you in the southern hemisphere, though, you're going into fall, right? Has it started getting cold yet? Tell me everything. Drop it in the comments. Send me a message. I really want to know. Now, me? I'm doing really well, actually. And I want to say that with some intention because the last couple of months have been a little rough health-wise. Some of you may remember I mentioned some things were being investigated. We have an idea. It was a flare-up of an existing condition from many, many years ago when it started. And so my GP and I have made some adjustments to diet, exercise, and some self-care. And I'm feeling tremendously better. My medical team is wonderful and I'm in very good hands. One specific self-care practice that really helped me has been setting aside about 45 minutes to an hour every afternoon to rest. Away from screens, away from distractions. I use this time to do a gentle stretching routine. Sometimes I just sit by the window and breathe to let my body decompress. Or I read a book. It sounds simple, but making that space for myself each day has made a noticeable difference in how I feel. And if you've been pushing through or feeling run down, maybe try to give yourself a dedicated moment like this. Even a few extra quiet minutes can be extremely restorative. And on that note, I say this with all the love in the world. Unsolicited medical advice is unnecessary and unwelcome. I know it comes from a good place. I know. But I've got it handled. Leave the doctoring to my doctors. And just be glad that I'm feeling better. Deal? Deal. But anyway, Monet is thriving. Dreamspace is thriving. I'm thriving more than I have in, it seems like forever. I've been outside in the actual sunshine like a person who goes outside. I know. Who is she? Don't know. I've been exercising. I've bought 5-pound weights. I've bought an exercise bike. I've been using them. And honestly, that deserves some kind of award. And my exercise bike, I've been riding that a lot too when the weather's bad. And then there's the other low impact floor exercises to strengthen my legs and my core. It's been incredible to my mental and physical health. This improvement, including my metabolism, energy levels, liver health, and focus. I feel leaps and bounds better all around. So spring has come in and has woken something up in me. And I want to talk about that today because I don't think I'm alone in this. So welcome to what I'm calling Blooming from Ashes. That is our April episode. And if that title means something to you already, good. We're going to sit in that for a little bit together. So let's get into it. Friends, the sun is shining, the birds are singing, and the real sunshine has done more for my personal vibes than anything else that I've been doing. Not just outside my window, although it is, and I've been standing in it like a plant that forgot it needed light. But creatively, mentally, energetically, the forecast has completely changed since last month. You might remember that in March we were overcast, calm but gray, maintenance mode, hurry up and wait, trusting the work we'd already done to do its job while we rested and recovered and figured some things out. And here's the thing about maintenance mode that I didn't fully appreciate while I was in it. It works. You do the work, you build the foundation, you let it rest, and then one day you look up and see things growing around you that you planted months ago. The SEO is doing its thing, the blog is doing its thing, the systems that I built are doing their thing. And because the systems are running well enough to run without me for a time, I get to take care of myself, mind and body. The strategy I've built around, well, all of this is working. It's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. Lately, that's looked a lot like working out more, being outside more, riding my Like, not just the exercise one, but the real one, outside in the air with the humans and the dogs and the trees and the pollen and the sneezing, all of that. More walks with my 15-year-old pup, upping my lean protein and fiber, and sleeping like a person who knows what a schedule is. Sounds simple, right? But for those of us who have spent years running on fumes and willpower and sheer stubbornness, you know who you are. Simple is revolutionary. The goal for Dreamspace when I was building it was to take care of me and get me out of 24/7 survival mode, and it's finally starting to do that. We're not there yet. The work is not done. The work I've been doing on the website, the blog, podcast, and my creative writing is all cumulative. It compounds. It will continue to get better and better, lifting me further and further toward where I want and need to be, and that feels like standing in the sun after a very long winter. And I can breathe a little bit, a little easier. So the weather this month is looking warm and bright and full of possibility, prosperity, and promise. From the ashes of the winter fires and melted snow, things begin to bloom in the reawakened sunshine and moistened soil. Let's talk about that. There's something that happens this time of year that I don't think we talk about enough in creative spaces. The world wakes up in spring. And I don't mean that in a greeting card way. I mean literally. The trees that looked completely barren 2 months ago are covered in buds. The ground that was frozen solid is soft again. Things that went quiet and still and apparently lifeless over the winter are pushing up through the soil like they never stopped growing at all. Because they didn't. They were just doing it underground where no one can see. They were taking a little rest. Creative work does the same thing, I think. Before I dive further, I want to share something new here to set the stage for what comes next. I've been working on a novel. Some of you might already know, but for most of you, this is probably news. The novel is a cozy adult fantasy about finding magic in the ordinary, healing from trauma, and believing in yourself even when the world feels unforgiving. To give you an idea, the story centers on Allison, a creative neurodivergent woman who finds an unexpected doorway to the dream space. Through gentle magic and real-world struggles, she learns to love herself and her mind and her creativity, even when she feels othered. I'll talk more about the novel later in the episode, but first, I want to explain a specific experience with the manuscript a few months ago that I think many of you will relate to. I wanted to scrap it completely, start over. Kind of like how I was feeling about my website, my business last month and the month before that. Not literally burning it down, but the feeling, you know the one, where you look at something that you've poured your heart and soul into, like every ounce of yourself. You genuinely love it, but something feels, I don't know, off. And the only thing your brain can come up with is scrap it. Start over, tear it down to the foundation, begin again with fresh eyes and a clean slate, a new story altogether. I've heard this from other writers, other bloggers. I have a friend who wanted to scrap her entire website. Years of work, established SEO, real content that real people were finding and reading, just scrapping her business and starting over. Because something about it just wasn't sitting right anymore, and starting over felt like the only solution. I talked to her about it on Threads a little bit. I don't think I've necessarily helped talk her out of it, but I was definitely one of the voices saying, hey, don't do that. Let's take a pause and figure it out. What's going right, what's going wrong, and where you can fix what is wrong, gently but firmly. Trying to be one of the other voices of reason in the comment section. Because here's what I've learned. And what I had to remind myself of when I was standing in front of my own manuscript with metaphorical match in hand. The bones are usually pretty good. The story, solid. But that urge to start over isn't always about the work being broken. Sometimes it's something you've outgrown. You've gotten better. Your eye has gotten sharper. You can see things now that you couldn't see when you started writing it in the first place. And what you can see is the gap between where it is and where it could be. That's not a reason to burn it down. That's a reason to go back in and make some changes. For me, the novel felt more young adult than adult cozy fantasy, which is not what I wanted at all. The story is good. It means so much to me, this story. The characters are real to me, and I love them in a way that sometimes makes me cry when I write about them. But the voice sat somewhere in young adult territory, even though what I was writing was always meant to be for grown-ups. But cozy, fiction, fantasy. And that difference matters. Let me clarify what I mean here. Young adult fiction often focuses on coming-of-age stories, strong emotions, and big, sometimes dramatic plot developments, usually through the eyes of teenage protagonists as they figure out who they are. It's a fantastic genre with wonderful literature that I may write for at some point. Adult cozy fantasy, on the other hand, is more about comfort, warmth, and everyday magic. Stories where the characters are usually grown, the stakes are gentler, and the emphasis is on healing, belonging, and creating a home in a world that can feel overwhelming. It's less about the urgency of discovering yourself for the first time, and more about finding peace and magic in the life you're already living, and finally believing in yourself, breaking through years of trauma, of being othered and bullied. That gentle, grounded approach is what I wanted for this book. With the premise of, what if everything you thought and felt about yourself became real, good and bad? So instead of scrapping it, I'm doing something harder and more interesting. I'm going back through what exists. And there's a lot. I was 20 chapters deep, way over halfway through. And I'm using those chapters as scaffolding. The story is still there. The bones are still there. The characters that I love so deeply are still there. But we're growing it up. We're expanding it, letting it become what it was always supposed to be. That is spring. That is my spring, and that's exactly what spring is. Not creating from nothing, but taking what survived the winter and giving it room to breathe, to become more fully itself. So, if you're sitting on something right now, a blog, manuscript, creative project, website, podcast idea, or any other idea that's been hibernating, and you've got that itch to just blow it up and start clean, I want you to sit with that and think about this before you decide what to do. Here's a simple reflection exercise. Grab a journal or open a fresh note, a post-it note, whatever, and list 3 things you genuinely like about this project as it stands. Then list the 3 things that feel off or need work, and ask yourself, if I could change one thing to bring this project closer to what I want, what would it be? Sometimes seeing it on the page makes it clear that the foundation, the bones, the scaffolding, is still very strong, and it just needs a little surface polishing. It needs a little attention. Let yourself notice that and understand that your work is worth saving. Ask yourself, are the bones good? Because if they are, you don't need a blank page. You need fresh eyes, a little spring warmth, and the willingness to go back in and do the slower, harder, more rewarding work of growing something up instead of starting over. The ashes aren't the end of the story. They're just what comes before the bloom. All right, friends, let's talk business. Dreamspace style. Because spring energy is wonderful, and renewal is beautiful, and blooming from ashes is very poetic, isn't it? And also, the internet is currently being an absolute nightmare. And we need to talk about that too, because ignoring it doesn't make it any less real. So here's what's happening. Search engines, and I'm going to look directly at Google when I say this, are in the middle of what I can only describe as a very dramatic identity crisis. Are they writing their own YA book too? Algorithm updates are rolling through like weather systems. AI-generated content is flooding the internet faster than anyone can keep up with. And a lot of smaller independent creators, bloggers, writers, people who've been doing this with integrity, care, and actual human brains are watching their traffic behave in ways that make absolutely no sense. And it's frustrating. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it isn't, because it is. It genuinely is. And I have said some things to my analytics dashboard this year that I'm glad nobody could hear. But here's what I keep coming back to. This, I want you to hold on to it. If you're in the middle of this frustration yourself, this isn't the first time. The internet has gone through a convulsion like this, and it won't be the last. And the creators who are still standing on the other side of these shifts are almost always the ones who didn't panic. I mean, I panicked. A little bit. Did you panic? Good thing we didn't panic! Anyway, the creators who didn't chase the algorithm, who kept the work going with integrity and let the foundation they had already built do its job, those are the ones who will make it through successfully. Quality over quantity. We've said this before, and I will keep saying it until it's tattooed on the inside of my eyelids. The internet is overcrowded with noise, which means, and this is the reframe I want you to take with you, genuine human voice is more valuable than ever. Your specific perspective, your real experience, your actual knowledge, care, and personality coming through in your writing, that is irreplaceable. That is not something an algorithm or a machine or an AI, whatever, they can't devalue that. They can't replicate that, no matter how hard it tries. So what do we do in the meantime? Stay the course. Keep showing up consistently. And remember, consistently does not mean constantly. We make sure that what we're putting out is good, real, useful, ours. We trust the foundation we've built, and we let the systems work while we focus on ours. The Dreamspace has intentionally slowed its output. 2 blog posts a week, plus 1 premium piece of content, 1 podcast a month. And you know what that slower, more intentional pace has done? It's given me time to take care of myself, to rework the novel, to stand in the actual sun for like 5 minutes, to ride my bike around Culp's Hill, to gaze at the redbuds that are blooming like gangbusters right now. That is the dream. That is literally my dream, and we're living it. Even while Google figures out whatever the freak it's doing over there. Bless its heart. Okay, I want to talk about something that I haven't really talked about here yet. And I think it's time. I mentioned it a few times during this episode, but I'm writing a novel. Surprise! I know. I mentioned it earlier, but I want to actually tell you a bit about it because it deserves more than a passing reference. And honestly, I've been keeping it close to my chest for a while now, and spring feels like the right time to start opening that up a little bit. It's called Allison's Awakening, a Dreamspace Chronicle. And it's the first book in what I intend to be a series, hence the term chronicle. Allison is, how do I put this? Well, she's a lot like me, in ways that have made me cry while writing her more than once. She's neurodivergent and creative and trying to figure out how to exist in a world that wasn't quite built for her, like a lot of us. And she finds her way into a place called Dreamspace, which if you spent any time here, you already know is essentially a real place. It's the blog, it's the podcast, it is my flow state, and I gave it a name. And it exists a little bit differently in this book. It's cozy, it's magical, it's grounded in a reality that I think a lot of you are going to recognize, even through the fiction. I've been rereading it this spring, growing it up, as I mentioned earlier, letting it become the book it was always meant to be, and I am more excited about it now than I have been in months. I'm not ready to tell you everything just yet, but I wanted you to know that it exists. I wanted you to know it's coming, and I wanted you to know that when it does arrive, it's going to have a little piece of every season we've spent building this dream space together in it. Over the next few months, I'll be sharing a few behind-the-scenes glimpses, and maybe even some sneak peeks at early chapters or character ideas, some future stuff, who knows? So if you want to watch the story grow alongside the community, keep an eye out. You'll be the first to see what's blooming in the Dreamspace novel. So watch this space. Allison is waking up, and she has things to say. And that's where we land today. Blooming from ashes, the creative cycle that nobody talks about enough, the dying back, the quiet underground work, the slow push upward toward the light, the bones that are worth saving. The work that survived the winter is now ready to become more fully itself. Spring doesn't ask the seeds if they're ready. It just gets warmer, and the seeds respond. And I think we're a lot like that. when the conditions are right, when we've rested enough, and when we've built something sturdy enough to hold us when the light comes back. We respond too. So here's what I want to leave you with this month. Just one question. What survived your winter? Not what did you finish, not what you accomplished. What survived? What's still there, still alive, still worth tending? What's been doing its quiet underground work while you were just trying to get through? Because that thing, whatever it is, might be ready to bloom soon. And if you want to share it, what you're planting, what you're returning to, and what you're growing up this spring, metaphorically and literally, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment, send a message, or find me at dreamspacestudio.net. I read everything, and I mean that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for growing alongside me in this weird, wonderful little corner of the internet. Monet sends his regards as always, and so does Allison, and Thimble, and Soul, and Felipe, of course. They're all very much awake, and they all have plenty of words for you. So keep writing, keep growing, keep blooming. We'll talk again soon. Bye.